Flight. It's a subject that has inspired generations, certainly inspired me even from a small age. But what if you approach the challenge of flight from an entirely different angle? So what if you took the human mind and body, the human machines, human beings are amazing machines. What if we took that machine, which is just fantastic, and then augmented it with just the right amount of technology? It sounds crazy, but what happens if you then approach the challenge of human flight in that manner? So that's the story I'm going to share with you. This is my old training partner when I started this journey in London, doing a nice job, better than me, of demonstrating some of that human capability. Humans come out of the box with the most phenomenal balance and control system, between your ears. Standing on one leg is an awesome phenomenon, let alone running cross-country across an uneven surface, let's say. However, to fly, we do need a little bit of help. So we look no further than this technology, which is a microgas turbine, and that is shown sitting in this hugely over-engineered aluminium arm mount. We have a huge bias in this journey towards just getting the hell on with getting our hands dirty and safely failing most of the time, frankly, but that's how we made so much quick progress. We got outside with a mop bucket as a fuel tank, aluminium tube as the arm mount, and then played around with this gas turbine. That's putting out 22 kilos of thrust by itself. It was so compelling and so controllable, so benign from the point of view of actually not kind of ripping your arm off, not kind of thrashing around like a fire hose, that we then progressed, got ourselves a field, put the fuel tank in a backpack, and jumped around in that field. And even at this stage, even with just two, what I would call thrust vectors, so in other words, two devices blowing air, it actually was pretty stable, surprisingly so. And you'll see in this clip, you get some idea of the now 44 kilos of thrust. You get some idea of how powerful that is when you see me attempt to try and hold it horizontally. And I hold it for a bit and then make a bad job of that and have to turn it off. So that was probably only about a month after that first clip showing the one engine in the mount. All the time looking for how we could repurpose other technology and make very quick progress. And there's only one sensible thing to do once you've played with two gas turbines like this. Go and get 4. So now, that's about 88 kilos of lift, and you can see I'm not really coming down very quickly. That was really fun. So when you add up the weight of the engines and the fuel, despite I don't weigh 88 kilos, but it still, as you see, it wasn't quite enough to stay on, get up in the air. Now, we carried on trying and experimenting. You can see I've got 2 engines on each arm there. So we started experimenting with the idea of, well, let's stick them on the legs, because your legs are very strong. They're designed to take your weight. And let's at the same time experiment with this little harness system. You can see it there. The cameraman was a bit worried at this stage. The harness system was quite neat in the sense that it stopped you falling over, but it was a disaster from a balance point of view because it created another thing yanking you around. So you had to control 4 limbs all pushing you in weird directions and this harness attachment. But it taught us something. And the leg engines, I was just about getting my head around how I could try and control these. We also learnt a lot by failure. You're going to enjoy some other clips in a minute, and this is a little taster of what's coming. This is what happens when you pinch a fuel line. I hopefully won't do this later. Learning from safe failure, that was something we've tried not to do again. Now, this was a bit of an evolutionary dead end. This was, again, in the spirit of trying stuff, we put 3 engines on each arm, which on paper is enough for us to get off the ground. But my God, that was about 70 kilos of push on each arm, and each arm engine assemblies weighed about 12 kilos, so it was a little bit hefty. So we didn't get very far with that. But what we did get far with was this setup where there's 2 engines on each arm and an engine on each leg. And this is me learning very slowly, and you can see it was tantalizing. This little clip, that's kind of flying until I did this silly flick thing. We learned a hard way that actually when you get pushed off a bridge into the water or something, you tend to cycle your legs. When your brain can't find the ground anymore, they tend to kind of pedal. That's really not helpful when there's a jet engine attached to each leg. But anyway, you could try lots of concentration and you could kind of get there, and I'm very proud of this next clip, despite it being a bit of a fuzzy one. This is the 6-second first coherent flight. Honestly, thank you. I'm most proud of that because that was genuinely the moment in time, only some 8 months after standing in a lane with an engine and a mop bucket, that was the moment in time when this mad idea turned into something that actually worked. And then since then, we've carried on developing this and evolving it, but I'm just going to go back to the whole learning from failure piece, which is critical. You can now enjoy a little collection of slightly painful, that one was quite painful, and then that was quite recent. That was pilot error, that wasn't the equipment. So safely failing, getting out there, getting your hands dirty, as I say, that's been critical to this journey. We've got a little sequence here, which is, I suppose, a good demonstration of really the capability we've now got. And whilst that's playing, I'd like to just, draw us back to... No, thank you. That's quite a long way from that farmyard, isn't it? And all of that, I want to remind people that all of that is down to what the human brain can be taught to. And I can't ski, snowboard, rollerblade, anything like that. This is just down to what we're all kind of born with, the ability to balance. And this is more stable than walking when you've got used to it. Now, crazily enough, where have we gone since then? We're obviously continually evolving the technology, and I'll come back to that in a minute. But actually, believe it or not, we sold a custom-built 850 horsepower suit for a particularly discerning individual. That was the suit reveal. And this was still in that farmyard, which we are moving away from for members of the public. We actually had this gentleman come along and learn to fly. He was quite an experienced Formula One, sort of amateur Formula One driver, and said after 3 days this was more exhilarating and more exciting than doing that. So I guess he liked it. Now, also, what's been a pleasure is embracing new technologies. So this is an example. We haven't even flown with these yet. This is an example of titanium 3D printing. So the arm mounts that I'm flying with today are aluminium printed. So you do a CAD file, a big three-dimensional drawing of what it is you want, and literally press print. And about 10 days later, out emerges from this powder this aluminium, creation. And this is a titanium version of that. So we're fully embracing every new technology we can. I also fly with this kind of holographic heads-up display system, and that gives me all the fuel and engine data. Again, it's a really good AR use case, augmented reality use case. I can't exactly look at a dial on my wrist. I'll kind of go over there if I do that. So where are we going with this? Well, this is a little sneak preview. This gives you a bit of an idea of some of the let's say, audacious things we're working on in the background. Having opened this whole new era of, or realm of human flight, we're now experimenting with putting very basic aerofoils, so in other words, small wings on that suit, because at the speeds we were doing over that lake, it's just crying out for little aerofoils to start catching lift and stably start bringing, it's going to be fun. So there's some little artist ideas, artist renders of what that's going to look like. And imagine going beyond that, and imagine having air race and display teams chasing each other around kind of inflatable pylons in like Singapore Harbour or somewhere like that. That's all in the pipeline. We've got kind of opportunities coming out of our ears with this. But if I just take a step back, I'd just like to kind of reinforce the message that what I've learned from this. Have that big dream, that big vision. Get the hell on with working out what it is you can do to turn that into something real. So stick your arm in an aluminium tube and go, okay, this could be, ground zero arm mount. And then be prepared to fail relentlessly, but make those failures survivable, safe, and controllable, and then go change the world. Thank you.